Hi people, Daniel from Devil & Sons Guitars here, and today I'm going to show you how to apply water slide decals to your guitar headstock. So in this video I'm going to show you not just how to apply water slide decals to your headstock, but also how I use them on other parts of the guitar. So I'm going to give 3 examples of headstocks, a straightforward method, a method where the guitar headstock's actually got some texture to it because it's been gold leafed in advance, one where I use a negative logo to let the gold leaf come through, which you can use for other colours as well. I think it's a great technique. And then later on in the video, how I use the decals to apply texture to parts of the guitar, and also how I use them as a guideline for things that I'm hand painting on it. Then at the very end of the video, I'll show you the finished versions of all of those guitars. Now, key to the way that I apply my decals is using something called Decal Fix and Decal Softener. These two are from Vallejo paints, but other companies make them as well. I'll go into more detail about exactly how I use these in a minute. But if you don't know what a water slide decal is, they're the sort of transfers that you would have had as a child that you can put onto your body, put them in water and then they slide onto your body. They're also like the things that you get for Airfix models, trains and planes, etc. You can buy them, but I also buy, like on this one, a sheet of water slide decal paper that you can put into your printer. You can get inkjet and laser types. You can also get it with a white background, or as I'm going to be using here, a transparent background. Now, to prep the area that I'm going to put my decal on, I am first painting it with the Decal Fix. So it's a thin layer of this, and what it does when it dries is it adds adhesion for the decal to really stick to it. So here I have the decal cut out to the size I wanted, printed, cut out. I need to leave it to soak. Sometimes for a small decal like this, it might only take about 30 seconds. You can kind of feel on the edges when it's beginning to peel away from the backing material, but you don't want to actually peel it away yet. You want to keep the backing material in place. I do find with slightly larger decals it might take a bit longer to make sure that the whole of the surface is soaked. Here you can see just on the corner there, the D was beginning to buckle up when I touched it, so that means it's ready to slide off the back. So now what I can do is place it onto the right position on the guitar, and using one thumb or finger I will hold the decal in place and slide the back off from behind it. So here we go, holding it in place, sliding it off, and the key thing here is to try and do it as flat as possible to try not to get any wrinkles while you're pulling away. And you can see my decal overlaps the edge of the guitar, which is totally fine. And now I'm using a dry paintbrush just to iron out or brush out those wrinkles that are there and to remove some of the water that's on the surface. Trying to be as careful as I can that I don't jog the decal, but you do have a little bit of time when you put it on where it's still movable, but once that water starts to evaporate and dry off, then the decal becomes more fixed in place, especially if you've got that Decal Fix already on the surface of the area you're working on. Now, before I actually put that Decal Fix on, I should have said this guitar has been painted, it's been sanded smooth and flat, but it hasn't had any varnish put on it yet. The varnish is what I'm going to be putting on at the very end once the decal's firmly in place to seal the decal and stop it moving. That also, the varnish helps get rid of any lumps at the edge. And you can see here on the right side, just where the edge of the decal's been cut. Now if we go in a bit closer, you can see here the wrinkles. And what I'm doing is I'm going over it again with my brush, but this time I'm using Decal Softener that I'm dipping my brush in. So that's the other paint from Vallejo. And what that does is it thins the surface of the decal. And by thinning off the surface, or the material, it makes the wrinkles kind of disappear. And what you're more left with is the ink. Depending on the quality of your decal, this can work much better with some decals than others. So you've got to be really careful, either if you're using the decal softener or not, when you're brushing over the top, that you don't pull off some of the paint or the ink from the decal. Now here you can see the wrinkles as I'm going over them, and the more I brush over it, the more it seems to disappear. I tend to use the decal softener straight after I've brushed most of the water off. I don't leave the decal to dry. And what you can do when you're painting on is you can really smell that it's an alcohol-based substance that's dissolving that thin material from behind. It also does help with the edges where you've got that line that I mentioned where the edge of the decal is, but again, once you varnish over the top, that starts to disappear and is less noticeable. So you've got to be careful not to completely overwork it, because as it dries, some of these creases do go a bit. I've got a bit too much around the D here, so I might just go back in a second and smooth that out. There we go. Now here I've got a different example. In the box on the top of the right, you can see me applying the decal fix as I did on the yellow headstock. But the difference here is the guitar has got on it gold leaf, and the gold leaf has a texture. So as well as applying the decal fix, before I did that, in that area I applied a light gloss varnish which I left to dry first, so that area is extra smooth. Now here I am doing the same on the back. So this guitar has been painted black and then it's been dry brushed with a bronze and a silver, and then onto that space I've put on a bit of the gold leaf. I varnished that gold leaf so it's nice and smooth, and just now you saw me putting on the decal fix, and now I have my logo that I'm putting on. So this was a custom guitar I was commissioned to make for Dr. Gothic, and what I'm doing here is putting a decal on where I've printed solid black, and because it's on a transparent water fixed decal paper, the white bits that you saw are actually transparent and they let that gold leaf shine through. So now I'm doing exactly the same as I would do with a normal logo, putting it in position, rubbing off the kind of water droplets that appear on the top, making sure it's all smooth, using a bit of kitchen roll just to dab off any large pieces, but again, be careful not to scratch that decal. And then here I am straight away with the decal softener to try and iron out the creases. And then once this is done, I let that dry thoroughly, and then I can start painting. So what I'm going to be doing is painting around the edge of the logo, as you can see in the bottom left corner here. I'm actually using a black paint marker pen. And then in the other two videos, you can see me, the bottom right, putting on the copper bronze kind of dry brush, and then in the main one putting on the silver. I'm going around, leaving right near the Dr. Gothic logo blank, ready to be varnished over the top. This one is a guitar that I've made for Zacharias from Interaxis, and what you can see there is a wooden block which has been hollowed out with LEDs in it, and the LEDs have a perspex layer over the top. And here on my decal paper, again transparent, I've printed a wooden texture which matches the wooden block, which is going over on the edges, the wooden bit, it's going over the plastic acrylic that covers the LEDs, and you can see the LEDs shining through on the surface where the hollow bits are, where the empty bits are on the design. I'll show you that in more detail later, because there's some other bits of this guitar I wanted to show you. So this is a design that I've done to put on the pickup humbucker covers. Basically printed it out again on that transparent decal. I'm putting it in place, and once I've got this in place and nice and smooth and let it dry, I'm using that as my outline for what I'm going to hand paint. So it'll have a sort of stencil pattern in it, trying to make it look a bit more 3D. Again, we're going to see this in a minute when I look back on the guitar. You can see how I've used the decals on both the pickups and on the design on the light areas. I actually used it on the headstock as well. You can see the Devil and Son symbol in the background there. Now this was the first guitar I showed you, the yellow guitar. That was a very custom guitar for a client called Chris. He wanted it to look like a giraffe. I think it's very unique and different to anything else. There you can see once it's been varnished over, that Devil and Sons logo really blends in. This is the back of the Dr. Gothic one. Again, it sort of blends in really well. And what I did is I accidentally scratched some of the paint around the sides of the logo, and I thought that looked really good. So I let the gold shine through. Here is the front of it where you saw the Devil and Sons logo, again smoothed in with the varnish. And then back here to the Viking guitar, where you can see both on the pickups, the design I've painted using the decal as an outline, and on those hammers that I've made out of wood at the back, how I've used the decal to disguise the perspex and let the light shine straight through them. If you want a custom paint job or a custom guitar made, do get in contact. I always love working with clients to develop ideas. But until next time, happy strumming.